But yeah, on the 3 point shootout contest, sorry, I got cut off there. It's just a continuation, but yeah, they really just scores, and of course, their 3 point percentage is gonna be high because they're trying to score on bunches there. But they're not 3 point shooters are known as being sharpshooters in the 3 point game per se. So do 50% of the sharpshooters, 50% of the NBA stars that can shoot threes, that have a high 3 point shooting percentage, and see who could really win in a battle there. As far as the skills challenge, I think that it should be East versus West. Due to some of the best skill players with those challenges from both coasts competing against each other. Or I think what could be even better, because these guys are just as skilled, I think more skilled than the U.S. players, due to foreign players versus the U.S. players in the skills challenge. And definitely make that shit more challenging. Make the skills challenge way harder than what it looks now. I feel like they kind of dumbed it down recently, especially that's how it looked this weekend to me. My like I said, that was my first time really watching that one in a while, but yeah, make that shit more challenging. Put some more challenges out there, maybe some dribble challenges, maybe put a defender out there or something like that. I don't know. Add a different little twist to it to make it more challenging, and do East versus West or U.S. versus the foreigner skill challenge. And as far as the actual game itself, go back to just East versus West again, or do the foreign versus the U.S. No tournament style bullshit. No 4 teams, no 3 teams, just 2 fucking teams. Foreign versus the U.S. or East versus West. And here's the stakes to it. That could, make it, add a little bit more juice to it, right? If the foreign team wins, right, then whoever wins, they get to host it in their country or continent or whatever, right? But here's the other caveat too: that the player that wins the MVP, let's say it's for the foreign side, the world side, the player who wins the MVP gets to choose their home court for the next All-Star game. So it could be their hometown city or their favorite court in their hometown city, so that the people from where they from, we could bring the game to them, and those kids and those fans and everything that could actually see that on display at the biggest time on TV also. And we could see the culture there. We could see the next upcoming, kids that are trying to develop their game out there to make it in the league where they're from over there, or try to make it to the NBA. I think that would be pretty dope. So put those stakes and put that on the line there. It's like, yo, you want to do this world versus U.S. shit? All right, if we win the shit, we hosting the shit in our country next year. And I think if you're going to do the first game like that, do it at a neutral site that's not a Las Vegas team. Do it in Vegas. Do the next All-Star game next year in Vegas. Vegas does not have a basketball team yet. Do it in Vegas, world versus U.S. If that's because that seems like that's what everybody is clamoring for. Everybody want to go for that. Everybody is hyping that shit up. Like, no, do the foreigners versus U.S. Because, the foreigners they want to bust the U.S. players' ass and they take more pride. Okay, cool. Do that shit. First game, neutral site in Vegas. So it's still a lot of hoopla and everything, and, energy around it, I guess, and all the fixings and all that shit to get motherfuckers excited, right? Just like the play-in tournament, not playing the in-game tournament, in-season tournament shit, or whatever, right? And put it on the line. It's like, yo, this might be your last time. This might be our last time hosting this shit in the U.S. Us, as the U.S. fans, we already shit on the product and shit on the players and shit on everything else or whatever. So now let's see how we really feel to be like, damn, this shit ain't never going to be in my city again. And then we're just going to get on our teams or our favorite team players and be like, yo, y'all got to win this shit in the All-Star game. Y'all got to do something so that y'all could, I want to see the All-Star game in Philly, or I want to see the All-Star game in Miami. I want to see the All-Star game in New York. I want to see the All-Star game in Houston, the All-Star game in Sacramento again. Instead of being like, yo, I can't afford, or I'm not going all the way over to Paris or going over to Greece or going over to so-and-so to watch the All-Star game. I'm not doing that shit, or I can't do that shit. Or maybe you do want to. Maybe there's a sweepstakes thing involved. One of these companies or some shit all these sponsors are gonna do that shit. A sweepstakes where you win a trip, it's a free vacation and you get to see your favorite players. Maybe you're from the U.S., but your favorite player is Luka, or it is Giannis, or it is Jokic. You know what I mean? Shit, that'd be cool. That'd be fun. Like, oh shit, I won because I was rooting for the Joker to make it, or I voted for him, and I was there, and we going to that shit. You know what I mean? Or you voted for Şengün, a person that's not as known. He made one All-Star game. Can he make it again? I voted for him, or I put my bet out on him that he was gonna make it, and he made it. Now I get a trip out to France or some shit, like, you know what I mean, or Spain. That would be kind of cool, a cool little element. And then vice versa for the U.S. player. If the U.S. team makes it, if the U.S. team wins it, and then that MVP wins it, they could be like, all right, we're hosting it in the city of my team next year now, or we're hosting in the city where I'm from at this court. Can you imagine a motherfucker that's like from Cali or whatever being like, yo, I want to have this shit at the Drew League, like some of the festivities at the Drew League gym or some shit. I doubt that would happen because they can't fit all the fans and everything. But, imagine how crazy that would be if they wanted to, incorporate that as a part of All-Star Weekend, or let's say you play for, the Dallas Mavericks, but you're originally from New Jersey, or you're originally from Milwaukee or some shit, and you're like, no, I want to bring it to my city, this year. Imagine that. They get that on the line. And then if you're going to do the East versus West, if you want to do that shit, the East versus West thing, go back to traditional again. Whoever wins the MVP, same thing. The MVP gets to be like, all right, we're hosting it in my city next year, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, for more, competitive juice to it, the playoff series. And I know people are talking about, the championship home court thing, whatever, but hold on, let me get to something real quick. It's gonna sound a little bit crazy, a little different here, but in the playoff series, right, on both coasts. So let's say East versus West, whoever wins, whoever loses, whatever, right? But here goes a little caveat here, right? Whichever team has an all-star or two that's repping their team, right? Whichever of those players from those teams put on a best performance or had a biggest influence on the game, their team is able to get more home games in the playoffs, right? Meaning if your team had an all-star or two in the West or in the East, and they had the highest, let's say, player efficiency rating in the all-star game, or the highest amount of points in the all-star game, or is an MVP from the all-star game, they get more home games in their playoff series as opposed to, another team that's an 8 seed or a 7 seed, or a 7 seed or whatever, which they're going to get anyway, how it lines up now and everything, but put a little extra something on the line with it and everything, like, well, your team as a 7 seed, y'all ain't have no all-stars or whatever, so we get 4 home games and y'all get 1 or some shit like that, or if those 2 players that were voted to the All-Star game actually contributed and had points or made it real, they put in the effort and contributed to produce to trying to win the game or did win the game in the All-Star game. All right, we get more home games. Y'all could only just have 1. Y'all could only just have 1. And let's say, okay, you got 2 teams in the West Coast or 2 teams in the East Coast that both had All-Star players, but one team had 1 All-Star player or both their All-Star players do more in the All-Star game. Like I said, higher player efficiency rating or higher points or whatever, had a higher influence in the game, competing. Like, we both played in the same game, we both All-Stars, but I did more. I showed that I really wanted to compete here in this shit. So y'all get 1 home game, we get all 4. Type of shit like that. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe you gotta have ideas like this for these niggas to actually try and play, put on a show, or actually try and fucking compete. And then for the championship series, whichever coast actually won the game, you know what I mean, when it comes to the championship series, they get more home games again. And maybe you formulate it in a way where the extra caveat in the series too is like, well, y'all gotta win game 3 or something. I get to choose which game is your home game, and if you win that game or whatever, then you could have an extra home game or some shit like that, something like that. I don't know, but it's just some ideas here to make them actually be like competitive, or there's some stakes on the line for this shit to have it, because it ain't gonna be money. It's not gonna be money. Clearly, with the way that things are going and some of these players' mindsets, it's not about competitive pride or the legacy of the game and everything like that. So put something else on the line. These are just some crazy ideas I'm coming up with here. That's all. But to put something on the line to make them wake up and be like, oh shit, in the back of their mind, like, oh shit, like, nah, I really gotta show the fuck out on All-Star Weekend, because it means something that's gonna affect me down the line. It's not something that has no consequences and it's not gonna affect me because it's just one weekend and we forget about it and we go back to our lives and doing business as usual. It's like, oh shit, this shit will affect me down the line in the playoffs, in my career, at the end of the season for accolades and awards. Just a couple crazy thoughts. That's all. But that'll wrap this up as a quick clip here. Welcome to the franchise with me. Y'all out there, be easy. Enjoy the rest of the week. With some more games coming. I think NBA starts back up on Wednesday. Definitely excited for that. But yeah, y'all out there, be easy and enjoy the rest of the NBA season.